Hello, welcome to another of myself and John Arnold's 60th anniversary of Doctor Who special YouTube things. Today we're looking at fan poll results on what your favourite Doctor Who cliffhangers were. We're going to resume over this fairly swiftly because you've just presumably watched 3 hours worth of videos over the last year of us talking about cliffhangers. Here are the top 20, but before that, some bubbling under which we forgot to mention in 3 hours of podcast earlier in the year. Image of the Fendel, Part 1, people like that. Tom Baker's something's up on him in the forest, and somebody tries to shoot Leela. There's also quite a few mentions for the Empty Child. Are You My Mummy? With all the
Oh,
patients,
yes.
the doctor. Can't believe we
Go
didn't
to
mention
your
that one.
room.
Yes.
Look,
The
great, because it's got that element of that resolution that's absolutely brilliant. It's
yes.
yeah, it's something the Doctor has a perspective see where we wouldn't necessarily.
Yeah. And it pays off for a jump scare later on too. One that I didn't even consider at all because I have a historian's mind and therefore do I even consider cliffhangers that aren't 50 years old? But the most recent cliffhanger, which was Power of the Doctor, when the Doctor regenerates back into David Tennant, that was
Oh,
mentioned as a
it's what's going on. Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
um
absolutely. And whoever said that, brilliant, because they're absolutely right as well. Because it got people talking in a way that I don't think Doctor Who's been talked about for a long while.
one that I didn't consider at all, but I think it's somebody's childhood favourite. And I can't remember who, because I've just not noted who it was, but Earthshock Part 3, where you see lots of Cybermen on the video coming towards.
Oh, the effects work
Yeah.
on that is lovely. Just the yes.
And the final bubbling under one, just below the one that finished in 21st place, which I'll mention just because John will like to hear that other people like it, is Kinda Part 2, with them all
Yes.
trapped with the box of Anna and being
I
ordered to
love you.
open it. So, John, here are the top 20 Doctor Who cliffhangers of all time, as
Ooh.
voted for by Doctor Who fans that we know. So they may be slightly slanted towards our social group. Um, Number 20, The Sea Devils Part 3. You see the Sea Devils appearing from the waters.
Oh yes, yeah, because obviously the season 9 DVD set or Blu-ray set has just come out. You rewatch it, and yes, that has a heck of an impact. You're introducing the monster as a threat. Beautiful. You would tune in next week on that.
I did watch the Sea Devils recently, and it speeds along at quite a enjoyable pace.
Oh, it doesn't feel like 6 episodes, does it?
19 is The Happiness Patrol Part 1, where the Doctor meets Candyman for the first time.
I love the taste of this audience. The Candyman is one of the great Doctor Who Williams. He is just a miserable, grumpy sod he's
Wonderfully catchy.
misanthropic. It's like the Terry Pratchett description of Shadwell in Good Omens.
Number 18, The Invasion Part 6, which is when the Cybermen show up and start marching down by St. Paul's.
Oh, they
Right.
flip up the manhole. Yeah, absolutely.
17, this is a curious one, I thought. The Keeper of Traken Part 3, where Cassia is made the keeper and then the Melker kills her and takes over, so it's in control of Traken.
Yes, no, that's not bad. It's a high jeopardy. It's a really well chosen cliffhanger. I like that. I like that.
16, Survival Episode 2, when they reveal that Ace has been taken over by the Cheetah Planet.
Oh, so
Rise of
lovely. It's not an expensive bet. You just turn around and you've got the horror conveyed in a simple. It's what Doctor Who does brilliantly. Totally.
15, one I've raved about before, The Curse of Fenric Part 3. What's worse? for the Doctor, then having his two allies killed in the last 2 minutes of the episode. One of them to be reanimated by an evil from beyond the corner of time who knows he's a Time Lord.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, Dinsdale Landon sells it so beautifully.
Oh, he's such a good actor. Tomb of the Cybermen Part 2. Cybermen escape from the tombs.
The honeycomb.
Yes.
Yeah, again, that's one of the great sequences of Who, isn't it? It's one of those you just watch. I remember it coming back. You sit down and watch it, and go, yeah. If you were 5 or 6, or under 10, you'd have been cacking yourself.
Cybermen, number 13, and I'm actually shocked. This is one we did not talk about at all. Earthshock Episode 1.
I think it's one that was more effective for the people who were there at the time originally. Which I didn't know it was Cybermen came back, and it's just that came up as I thought, wow. And I'd never seen a Cybermen story before.
Yes.
So even without that.
It got spoiled for me because I opened up Target at a random page, and the first thing I saw was the cyber controller said.
Yep, that's going to work. And obviously, if you bought the VHS, if they're on the front, you can't go into the shop now, not knowing it's a Cybermen story.
I tried to convince Marco Piva, the writer, when he was getting this Doctor Who, to watch Earthshock on Daily Motion without looking at anything else. But I don't know. I don't know if he got to see it without the shot. But the surprise ruined. I'm assuming he didn't.
Wonderful cliffhanger. They turned down the Radio Times cover for it, so that's a commitment. I don't think Doctor Who's done very often.
Number 12, The Impossible Astronaut. Amy reveals she's pregnant.
Yep, and she's in the middle of the house with all the silence on the ceiling as well. Yeah. I think that it is genuinely an effective cliffhanger.
11, World Enough in Time. The Doctor finally gets down to the basement to find that Bill has been converted into a Cyberman.
It's such a dark cliffhanger, isn't it? And he's taken prisoner by the two masters.
Yes.
Beautiful.
And after all that, he got there half an hour too late after she'd been down there for 6 months.
Yeah.
The
wibbly wobbly timey wime stuff, he's really, really cleverly on that.
Top 10, number 10. The Daleks episode 1. I mean, iconic again.
Why we're here. It's why we're here doing it. It's why everyone in Doctor Who is here doing it, essentially. 9,
The Ark Part 2. It's like Planet the Spiders, but before Planet the Spiders was a film.
Jim puts it, the Ark, the only story where the episodes come in 2 by 2.
The cliffhanger for the Ark Part 2 is one of the 3 good things in the Ark, alongside the security kitchen. And it may take less time than you think. Are you up to something? No.
I would add the elephant, and I would also go with the monoid. Obviously, it's part of the cliffhanger. The monoid statue is just a brilliant image.
Your mate Eddie Robson's book on the classic Doctor Who series.
Oh, Eddie, Jim, and Eddie Robson, Jim Cooray Smith, and Mark Clapham. Yeah.
Yes. Their bits on the elephant refers to how great Michael Emerson's work is, and it just says, watch him zoom, watch him focus, watch him kill the budget and never come back to Doctor Who.
I do love that. It's very much in the spirit of the discontinuity guide while being its own thing.
Number 8, The Dalek Invasion of Earth Part 1. What's that coming out of the Thames? Is it a Dalek? Yes, it's a Dalek!
Yes, the Terry Nation episode 1 cliffhanger. It's a Dalek, or it's a monster essentially. Yeah, again, it's you keep the audience waiting right to the end to see the Daleks. It's a masterclass in whole. The first week you don't know. First Dalek story, you don't know what they are. The second one had the Radio Times cover. You're likely to be aware the Daleks are coming back, and holding them back till the end is an absolute masterclass of writing.
Amazing cliffhanger because logically it doesn't make sense. There's a swimming Dalek there, but
No,
the rule of cool just makes it. Oh, number 7 is Remembrance of the Daleks, episode 1, where the Dalek hover up the stairs to get the McCoy doctor.
I think, as I said when we talked about it before, it's the episode that brought me back to Doctor Who when I was drifting, and that's part of it. Just okay, I'll get away from it by going up the stairs. Even though, again, I think this is the logic is slightly skewed, because the Dalek could just have stood there and waited for the Doctor to go up to the door and still had a clear shot. But I think it's of a part with Dalek later on, where the cruelty is part of it. That Dalek just floating up the stairs, and then to say it's engaged. Remembrance signals that Doctor Who's engaging with a mod audience. It's got that kind of aliens headshot. It's a modern show again. It's vital. And it's worth ruining your life for, I'd say.
Number 6 is the hipsters' claim for the greatest Doctor Who cliffhanger. The Caves of Androzani Part 3.
I'm not gonna let you stop me now.
I mean, it is great. I should know I'm a hipster.
I'm going to say exactly the same. It's Peter Davison. You don't necessarily see his Doctor get that animated, that agitated, caring that much. He's pushed the end of his tether. He's going through with this. It's brilliant, and that Graham Harper directs the hell out of it.
I'd never noticed it until Rob German pointed out, but the generation stuff starts to flicker on the screen, and then Davison kind of snaps it out to continue because he's got to say, Perry, there's got to be another way.
Yep. That's exactly it. Yeah, it is such a beautiful. He's going to regenerate. He could, and he's holding it off. And it's right. The stakes are so the stakes are comparatively minor.
Yes.
It's surviving, the absolute basic. But it's thrilling and it works. And and it just that ups the tension for that entire last episode too. It's that thing that feeds through and almost changes that game in the last episode.
It's a moment of tension in an action flick, directed to the nth degree to get the most emotion out of it.
Steve Moffat said, the Doctor is this nice guy who keeps his companions safe, and therefore that is the ultimate stake, and that's what that last episode is. He doesn't want to let Perry down.
On Unearthly Child Part 1, the TARDIS moves in time and space.
How can you? I'd just love to have seen it at a time just to see what how much it's screwed with your head. It's such a great imagery. Again, Wallace is saying makes it so odd. All the sound, the images, what's going on, and then just that shadow falling across the landscape at the end. You don't know what's coming next. Yes, please, I'll be back next week.
Number 4 is the highest ranked one that we didn't mention before, which was Utopia, where Derek Jacobi was revealed to be the Master, and he turns back into the Master, and then he regenerates as John Sim, and then he takes the TARDIS and abandons the Doctor and Captain Jack and Martha on the end of the universe.
My problem is I was spoiled for it. I knew what was coming up, so I've never quite rated it as highly as everyone else. And the thing is, it's not necessarily the cliffhanger itself which people remember. And although it's a brilliantly executed cliffhanger, you've got Doctor abandoned with the ravening hordes of the desperate future people at the door. But what I remember for is the Master's back.
Yes. Yeah.
And Derek Jacobi sells that brilliantly. so brilliantly you could get a whole audio series out of all that.
I remember in the 90s, one of the Daily Record story about Doctor Who returning with Derek Jacobi as Doctor Who, and I told Granda Bob, because I knew he's a big Catfile fan. Bob kind of frowned and went, he always struck me as an actor who more likely to have played the Master. And Bob didn't live to see Utopia, but he was bloody right.
Psychic.
Number 3, Face of Evil 3. Who am I?
I love that this is ranked so high. It's a beautifully executed cliffhanger. They're getting people who are just in the studio. Pamela Salem, I think, does one of the voices. A kid who won a competition to be in the studio, he does one of the voices. It's that sensory overwhelm on it that's brilliant. The imagery of Tom Baker's big face, the Doctor as the enemy. It's gorgeous.
Number 2, Bad Wolf. Ruth, I'm coming to get you. It's a cliffhanger for the Daleks.
It's glorious. It's as I said, this was when Doctor Who was hugely popular. We knew it after the ratings being huge all season. It was when people were talking about it in work, and people were Googling to try and find out what was going to happen next week, and no one knew. I was like, that's it. We won.
Yes. And the number 1, as voted by fandom, and I'm quite surprised about this, even though I'm on record as being a huge fan of this cliffhanger. It is Ambassadors of Death Part 2. Cut it open. Yes.
I love that. Again, a beautifully directed cliffhanger. I would say I'm only mild surprised we haven't had Journey's End, the Stolen Earth Journey's End cliffhanger in the top 20, because I think it was the biggest thing in the country at the time. But yes, I will happily go with the Ambassadors of Death, and you would come back next week for it.
I implore anyone to watch the end of that episode and not have to immediately put on it part 3 next. It's just so brilliantly well done. John Pertwee's great in it, and the direction's great in it, and it just builds perfectly. And for the record, Stolen Earth was in the top 30, but didn't quite make it to the top 20. So yes, that is the greatest Doctor Who cliffhangers of all time, as voted for by you, the fans. If you have any comments, feel free to tell us them below. And remember to like and subscribe. Thank you.